afternoon, all, and welcome again to the platform of National MD Pharmacology. I'm Dr. C.M. Kamal. We have established National MD Pharmacology Group for flourishing relationship and cooperation among pharmacological fraternity, and it is currently among the most prestigious group of pharmacologists with MD Pharmacology degree. Majority of the members of National MD Pharmacology are head of the Department of Pharmacology from all over the states, all over the country. It's a group of experienced and eminent pharmacologists or pharmacology leaders with significant contribution in the specialty of clinical pharmacology and therapeutics. With these words, I would like to invite today's moderator, Dr. Vandana Roy, head and professor and head Department of Pharmacology, Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. Dr. Vandana Roy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamal. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are quite audible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the National MD Pharmacology Group, initiated by Dr. Kamal and Dr. Badial, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 7th and last webinar of the series organized on the topic Competency-Based Medical Education in Pharmacology. Over the last 6 weeks and more, we have been exposed to a feast of topics, beginning with introduction to CBME in pharmacology teaching and training, going on to teaching learning methods, planning the schedule, simulations, self-directed learning, practicals. And today we come to the last webinar in the series on assessment. Now, we all know that assessment drives learning, and hence how and when we assess is going to be very, very important as a driver for students' learning. To tell us more about this very important topic, we have amongst us two esteemed speakers, well known in medical education and pharmacology. You have already been introduced to them. Professor Nirmala Rege, she's a Professor Emeritus Pharmacology at KEM and St. Medical College, Mumbai. Professor Dinesh Badial, who is also a Professor of Pharmacology in CMC Ludhiana, and also the convener of these webinar series that we all have been participating in. Now, without wasting any more time, may I invite Professor Nirmala, Dr. Dinesh, would you begin the discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kamal and Dr. Vandana. As ma'am rightly told us that this is a concluding part, so we thought we will keep assessment here. So most of the components we have covered earlier, curricular component. Assessment is very, very important in the CBME, and especially if you do not change assessment, nothing much changes. That's what people say in the conventional end. People might start continue to teach in the same way and assess in the same way. So major changes in the assessment, which is we are going to discuss today. So our plan is in the next 45 minutes, we will try to cover concept of assessment in pharmacology in new curriculum, that is CBME, internal assessment, changes in assessment, a bit about some methods of assessment in pharmacology, changes in the university examinations, and challenges in implementation of this type of assessment. Now, this is a definition of CBME, which we have discussed earlier too. But we wanted to highlight here the word assess here, looking at our experience of dealing with the components which are there in the CBME in the last 5 to 7 years in design.
Sir, your voice volume is low.
Looking at various, is okay, sir, now?
Yeah, it's now fine.
Based on our experience in designing, delivering the CBME, and also looking at the last 1 year in the assessment, various universities experience and how we collaborate with them, and the evaluation which has just started now, we will see this the place of this assessment in the CBM curriculum. This is the definition we put earlier for competency. There are two keywords in this: habitual and consistent. Now, when you want to see whether a student has become habitual and consistent in the use of various domains of learning, which is sum total of competencies, then we have to assess him continuously. then only we can see that it has become a habitual and consistent thing with him. So that two words push us towards a continuous formative assessment, which is much more important now in the CBME curriculum. We'll see some examples of that and relate to that in the pharmacology. So when we look at two purposes of the assessment, this one is to prove, that is end of course university examination pass fail decision selections. Another is improve, ongoing assessment for improving the quality of learning. Let's see how this will be used here. In CBME, there's a major role of feedback. So effective feedback is paramount to helping learners to improve. And this is an ongoing process. That's why we are saying continuous, formative. You are using this for the learner for their formative years, so that you can detect any deviation in learning as soon as possible and take the remedial measures. So teacher or the facilitator decide if the student acquired the desired competencies. Remember here, achievement of competencies is important. All competencies are to be assessed. Some are certifiable. The student acquire and improve their competencies. If they are not competent, they will still keep on working with the help of the facilitators and improve on the competence using assessment strategies. This is a slide I wanted to show you for the concept differentiation. The conventional curriculum, which is present already 2018 backward, and competency 2019 onward. If you look at one of the major differences is assessment. It is subject specific and mostly summative in the conventional. And how we are moving towards in the competency, we are talking more about integrated and formative assessment. Now I will just try to show you one small T-bag model, demonstrate you, try to understand, and some of you, we will ask you some observations also about that. And give me just a minute to set up that. So this T-bag model is quite well defined for the competencies. When we talk of competency-based curriculum or the traditional curriculum. So I'm stopping the slides right now. Okay, we are concentrating on these components here in the slide. If you see, one is the CBME time-bound curriculum and outcome-based, and another is assessment, how we need formative assessment multiple times. These three classes are equivalent to 3 students. Right now you think about any curriculum, traditional or the competency-based curriculum. In any of the curriculum, in both the curriculum, we have all the teachers have a teaching learning methods. So these are the T-bags I'm using, same company, same brand, okay, all same taste, everything is same. So these are equivalent to the teaching learning methods. So we put the students into the same teaching learning methods, 1 hour lectures, 2 months of teaching program. So all of them are given the same instructional material. So this is the teaching going on for some time. And then the teaching stopped. Now I want to ask some of you, maybe some of you can ask specifically right now for the observations. So let me ask here, Kavitha, Mudavat, Kavitha Mudavat, can you unmute yourself? Okay, let me go to Gurleen Kaur. Dr. Gurleen Kaur, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
What difference you see in the 3 classes, which are equivalent to 3 students?
One is dark.
Okay.
The middle one is slightly dark, and this is very light.
Okay, so I assume, for example, right now that you are a sort of external examiner, right? You have gone somewhere, this much time you get to examine the students, 5-10 minutes per in the undergraduation. And you very well actually observe that from a distance, you can see the color. It's very good observation. And you see there are changes in the color, gradation of the color changes, which you have told me. That's very good. Let me ask one more person, any other observations? Dr. Bharti Karelia. Yes, Dr. Bharti. Your observations on this? audio is breaking up. So we'll ask somebody else. Hema Bindu, Dr. Hema Bindu.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
I could see the color differences that whatever the madam has told, the slightly dark and very light. Maybe if we can correlate with that, very dark means like a grasping of the subject and retention of the subject. We
Okay,
can assess in that way.
very right. So ma'am has sort of told that this very dark something which is there, maybe that is the standard we are looking at, and this student has grasped and others have less of that which are there. So ma'am, like I'm continuing with that only.
Yeah.
Suppose this is the present curriculum where the internal assessment is 35%. Suppose this person has got 35, this got 50, based on the color 80. All of them will appear in the examination because that's the criteria, 35% minimum. Somebody has 80%, they also appear. So and if they perform, maybe work hard in that last months, and all of them will pass. So in the traditional curriculum, this is a time bound. So even when you see these differences in their achievement of things, they can still pass. It's a time bound mainly.
Yes, sir.
And in the competency base, now suppose you find one student is like this.
Yes.
You know all the competencies need to be assessed. Some are certifiable, which must be done 100%. Otherwise, 50% internal assessment for all. So this student has not achieved that competency. How we can help this student? How we can
after assessing the formative assessments, when we see that the caliber of the students is very poor, how we can improve? That's what your question is, sir?
Yeah, question is how we can help this student as a teacher. Yeah.
After, to my knowledge, after going through the first formative assessment, when we see some of the students, we can grade the students. When we see some of the students, like for 10% or 20% of the students are not grasping the subject properly, then we can conduct separate sessions, maybe if the faculty cooperate with us.
Okay, it means you want to have more teaching sessions. Okay, so I have one teaching session more. Okay, maybe let's do it with this student.
Okay.
I have done once, but still not okay. Then I observed the color, then I again dipped again. Maybe I have to do this multiple times.
Yeah, multiple times. That's what. We can have more sessions, one-on-one based kind of.
Okay. So that is something we wanted to know, that during the 1 year, you have to do these things multiple times.
Yeah, that is very difficult, of course, and faculty cooperation is also needed, and many number of hours is also needed, and we need to have in government colleges, we need to have the classrooms also.
You need to sit down with the student and spend time.
Yeah, that is also
make them achieve the competencies. So we are using assessment for learning. We are using assessment for them to achieve the competencies for the students. Remember that is there. Another component is, maybe darker color you thought this is a standard. Most of us do that. Okay, and we assume. But remember, we have not told you which is the standard actually. Suppose this was the standard national competencies defined at the national level.
Okay.
Okay, IM injection in the pharmacology, for example. This is that 50% should do and all that. This is a competency. Then we have to see that this student at least matches this color, which is 50%.
Yes.
Okay, so all the students should reach at this competence level. Some of them might reach expertise level.
Yes.
Or mastery level. That will happen.
Yes.
Okay. So two things are there. One is, whenever we go as examiner, remember that, look at the competency. Don't assume darker color is the competency.
Yes.
So that is first thing, we should be very sure what is the competency. In IM injection or prescription writing, competencies are well defined.
Yeah.
So we have to work within that purview. Remember that. Students are preparing within that purview, within those limits.
Yeah.
Second is, we will be using assessment number of times. So this is known as T-bag model, T-bag seepage model, for showing the differences in the conventional and the CBM curriculum. The major changes in the assessment, where madam has rightly pointed out, we need more time to reach that concept. We'll restart from there only. So this is what I wanted to highlight. This is mainly outcome based. Outcome, for that you are looking at assessment again and again, whether it is achieved or not. If not achieved, you need to use assessment for learning, structured feedback and all that. That takes time. Those things have been proposed. They are coming up right now. Okay, a lot of changes are happening. From today onward, this is a historical day in India, and this is the T-bag model which I was able to demonstrate. And this is another model. I'm replaying it. We'll ask some of you. Okay, what?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You are showing another picture for this assessment, I think,
Yeah.
or assessment method. So previously you have shown us 3 glass model,
Yeah.
and in which there was some teaching method, the dip bags were the teaching methods, and we were the externals to observe what are the changes
Right.
occurring.
Right.
Similarly, in this picture, actually, some arrows are moving and going to some target, hitting some
arrow.
target.
I'm picking up some words, some arrows, some target, right? Anything else you observe?
Direction is one particular, means each arrow has to touch this target.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Somebody else has unmuted. Okay, let's go to Dr. Sudha KM.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, ma'am, what is your observation on this?
Sir, it is not crossing that barrier. It is not hit the target in the right place.
Okay. So if you see
And
something, there's one picture here. What seems to be the role of this person? He has some mic, some
Yes,
speaker.
Must be a role of teacher.
facilitator, sir.
Facilitator, very right.
Yeah,
Very.
he's standing at a distance.
Yeah,
and,
this is a famous model from the Missile Man, our ex-president APJ Abdul Kamal, the Missile Man. See how the missile system has improved. This has improved based on the feedback. Even if the target moves, there's a continuous feedback. Continuous, remember that. Continuous formative feedback, so that the direction changes. So it means with the student, when you are working as a facilitator giving feedback, one feedback is not sufficient. You have to check it with assessment multiple times, how they are doing, again reinforce, provide remedial measures. That is the soul of competency-based medical education. That will help them to achieve the competency. This is one competency example of one. And the T-bag model which we use, remember you as external told me about the color. I am with the glasses, I actually can taste it, I can smell it. I can assess more qualities. As internal, these glasses or students are with me for a longer period. It means formative assessment actually can help us to achieve, assess all the competencies, which actually is the mandate in the new curriculum. So that is something which is needed. Based on that, there are specific guidelines given to the universities. Each university has to have the remedial actions in black and white. For the students who are not able to achieve competencies, fail, supplementary, all. You will not decide based on the batch. It has to be in black and white before that. That is a major change. So that it is not that somebody is improving everything in 2 days, including attendance. So if you are working with the universities, please try to do that. So key features in this type of assessment is helps the learner to acquire and develop competencies. Direct observation plays a major role. For example, now we are talking about communication things in pharmacology, number of skill stations. Direct observations are needed, not a viva everywhere, but observations. Observe, put your marks, and move to the next station maybe. And all competencies are already told you. These are the competencies. You look at the number of competencies. 4 in the clinical pharmacology are certifiable, which are must. You need to observe that number of times as it is written and then certify it. So that is a must, 100%. Remember that. In other also, the level is defined at least 50%. So what we are doing is I'm taking pH 4.1, which is related to IM injection. This is how our students are doing. Okay, we try to see that they reach this level, conscious competence. In the competence stages, these are the stages. Initially, they don't know, and they're incompetent also. But they are not aware of that. Then later on, when they start doing, they are aware of their incompetence. They start to learn, and then they know it, and they become competent also. So that means we are trying to see all the certifiable competencies are achieved, and 50% everyone achieves that. And this, you see, important diagram. We need to help the student at each stage. Some of the students will need a stage where they are doing it without even revising those methods. They are unconscious competence or mastery level. This will happen. These are the stages, which is novice, advanced, beginner, proficient. This is our target. Everyone should reach there. Some will reach expert level and mastery level. So all the competencies in pharmacology look at this way, and how this competencies, the group of competencies in pharmacology will contribute to the roles of the IMG. And informal opportunities for assessment present in pharmacology is end of lecture, end of system, practicals. During practical, you talk and you discuss, provide feedback to students. During the tutorials, discussion, when you have a more time and smaller groups, you can actually have some MCQs, SAQs or completion tests, which most of you are already doing. And remember, some of them you're using only to assess learning and providing feedback, not everything for calculating the marks. So remember, but these should be based on the direct observation, should be close enough to the event, and focus on modifiable action. You can't say your height is less because they can't do anything about that. And a lot of students are writing reflections. Okay, so we will be actually facing a situation where we will be assessing the reflection. So that part is needed. Two formal opportunities are there. Internal assessment and university examination, how they have learned and how much they have learned. Both test different aspects and one is not a replacement. So remember, they supplement each other. So that is a very important component. So internal assessment, some of you were asking. So this is 2018 backward, which is already there. And this one is 2019. This is already in the document. I'm not going into details. But right now, what is postulated in the practical, for example, in pharmacology is practical test, OSPE, direct observations, mini clinical evaluation exercises, record maintenance, and attitudinal assessment, ATCOM assessment. Logbook up to 20%. So I just wanted to show you a scenario, what happens on the typical day of a university exam. IM injection, student is giving somewhere, but you are not observing there. Maybe you're calling that student again, sitting in front of you, and then you're asking, now tell us the steps of giving that. Maybe we are asking this and this only. And maybe some places presentation skill, but practical skill and communication may be very less. So if you look at MBBS, 54 examiners are involved for a single student. Pharmacology, 4 examiners for each student. And now versus internal assessment, where you can assess so many components, and you have more teachers also in the department. This is a famous saying that this one is assessment of learning, university exam. And what is more important in CBM is assessment for learning. Can some of you unmute yourself, mute yourself, who got unmuted during that? So this is something I wanted to highlight. This is more important for CBME, assessment for learning. We also call this AFL. This is the concept now which has picked up a lot. CBM has made a lot of inroads in the last 1 decade. Most of the medical schools are shifting to in this. So assessment drives learning actually becomes true for this purpose, and you have a number of opportunities, much more than the university examination. Then you can assess all competencies actually. So the strategy should be alert the student in the internal assessment, reinforce the desired goal, and help to fill up the gaps. A lot of the people do not do this third step, which is a must. This you are already aware about. Minimum internal assessment 50% combined. Certified competencies, which are 4 in pharmacology, must be observed and marked. Attendance 80% in practicals. Okay. This is I'm showing you one of our work where we have designed internal assessment. 80% marks coming to the weightage of the academic marks, 10% to other academic activities, 10% to logbook and the practical and all. This is some of the work we have done looking at association of internal assessment with the university examination. How is the correlation? And this is our new model, methods and logistics for internal assessment and new MBBS curriculum, where we have looked at all the divisions, paper A, B, everything else. And this is the method which you have devised that. This is the way you can look into that. This is a theory part. A and B component give you total internal assessment. A lot of you were asking about that. So this is available in a paper otherwise also. This you are looking at 80% tutorial, theory marks, seminars and any other. You can customize this. At the end of the year, all teachers, multi-teacher will assign on mark on this. Interest in subject, active participation, scientific attitude, any other academic. Logbook is 10%. Similarly, ATCOM components coming into the practical part, and this is the total practical, C plus C. A plus B is theory, C plus D is practical component. This is given in our paper in that, which I told you just like that. Even the distribution of topic A and B and the question paper marking, that can be done accordingly. So I just wanted to draw your attention to MD curriculum, which is available now. This also says formative assessment is part of that. It is given the ways also how to calculate the formative assessment for the MD pharmacology. Even a layout is given there. So remember, we're shifting to formative assessment, which is a low stakes marks, less anxiety during the learning phase, lot of feedback, and for improvement and growth. So I'm just trying to sum up this assessment, principles of assessment in CBM. Assessment for learning, end of learning, multiple opportunities, multiple assessor, feedback culture in assessment, which ma'am has already said, you need a lot of challenges in that. Qualitative, words are more important, reflections of the writings by the students. All competencies need to be assessed, assessment with low stakes, reduces the examination anxiety. I'm not putting this slide to asking you question, but telling you an assessment how we ask. If I ask this way, what question do you have at the end of the session? I get a lot of questions. If I ask, do you have any questions? Usually you do not get questions. This is well rehearsed practice to see how we can improve the assessment strategies. One of the only strategies. Now I think we are moving to some of the technicalities and realities of the changes in the assessment. Dr. Rege will brief you more about that. Over to Dr. Anand Rege.
Thank you, Dinesh, for this wonderful presentation. So as Dr. Dinesh said, that we have formative assessment, internal assessment, which he has specified that how that formative assessment should be continuous, and internal assessment also should be continuous, though we are saying twice only, you have to pick up that, and the summative assessment. And you can't rely only on the objective way. Everyone asks then how that objectivity is brought into it. But remember, most of our judgments are expert judgment, and that qualitative assessment part should come when there is a continuous assessment with number of things. You can have some structure, and I will show you that, how to bring in that, but still it depends on your judgment and not on the exact scoring pattern. And whatever has changed is mainly the pattern, which as Dinesh said, there should be multiple setting, multiple examiners and multiple tools. And therefore, we have to prepare a lot for assessment than what we used to do earlier. You know about this, that we have a 11 months course now. The last in October, the students will go for their final examination. So during this 11 months period, we have to have that assessment, and the summative assessment will come in September, so that in August we should have that final prelim. So one of the internal assessment, if you want to give your student that want to have it, it is not compulsory now. On the other hand, there are two pharmacology question papers now, which used to be there previously, but for less mark. Now the marks have increased. It is about 200 marks, total theory marks, for 100 marks question, 100 marks on practical. And Dinesh has told you that what is to be, how the internal assessment marks are considered. They are considered not in any of these subjects. Previously, we used to add them to the university marks. Now, they are not added to the university marks. But they are 50% combined theory and practical marks are necessary for the eligibility. And they will be showing separately on the final grade card. And when we have got these two papers of pharmacology, in each paper there should be 40% at least, but two papers together there should be 50%. And it is mandatory to have 50% marking in both theory and practical. And this practical is practical plus Viva, but remember, this Viva is not like the previous subject Viva, which we used to have. There are two tables and examiners are asking questions on Viva. These Viva marks are mainly during on the whatever the practical exercises we will be giving to those students, maybe with the drug tray and all. So now we have to enlarge our toolbox. Previously it was written and practical, but now for the assessment of knowledge and skills, you can have the written tests, MCQ, SAQ, MEQs, OSCE and OSCE, and I will tell you what are the changes are expected in the written tests. For documentation of the work, it is the logbook, but logbook is not everything. Many institutions are preparing manuals also, journal manuals for everything to be written in detail. So those things can also be assessed separately. and consider along with the logbook. The record keeping, the portfolio. Now, it has been mentioned in the logbook manual that whatever the evidences are there, logbook is just completion of particular activity. But the evidence for the activity should go in the portfolio. And therefore, it is necessary to assess the portfolios as well. Especially, it has been shown that the reflections have to be assessed. So, assessment of the reflection is 1, 2. Discussions in small groups the students will be having. So it is not just the content, what is going on in the small group, but the teamwork and how they are doing the collaborative learning. So that will be the type of assessment of their attitudinal skills. And feedback on the performances, because they will be doing self-directed learning. So you have to assess that to some extent. You have to assess, they will be preparing essential drug lists, the P drugs list, and they have to write 5 prescription. That 5 prescription comes under the performance itself. So those 4 competencies which are related to the performance, that should come. And we have to develop some task-based checklists for this. And plus the direct observation, as Dr. Dinesh mentioned, about the procedures or the communication. And those procedures using mannequins have already been described in this assessment as well as in log and skill manual. Now, therefore, we have to prepare for the blueprinting, and this is very, very, very essential, because otherwise we will not be able to cover all the competencies. We will not know whether we are covered or not, or we are giving importance only to few competencies. Then the scores, of course, for that knowledge and you can give, but the preparation of the checklist for the skills, global assessment if you want to use anytime, and the rubrics. And I will tell you details about the rubrics later on. But the contextual questions should be there. It has been mentioned specifically that the previous questions, like what we used to ask, should not be asked. No, the questions without giving any context. And this context is, of course, of the clinical or practical situation. So there should be applied question. So developing those cases, because our students are in second MBBS, they may not be knowing diagnosis. So if you just give the examination findings, they will not be able to write. So we have to tell them the diagnosis, but we have to make that clinical context properly. All of you know that the basic thing for asking a question, that the objectives have to be tested. And in this case, the competencies. So the assessment method should be suited to that intended domain. We have to keep that mind, the cognitive, the psychomotor, and attitudinal domain. And based on that, our content and task should be aligned with this objective. And we have to have the sufficient sampling, because we can't forget to have any competencies. Then we need that tool to do that. And that tool itself is a blueprinting. It may be called by the sampling plan, table of specification, test specification, but it gives you the detailed plan. So it will tell you the content and it will tell you the appropriate tools of assessment and the relative weightage to be given to others. We can't cover everything over here. I'm just giving you the idea that why this is important, because there could be gaps in the otherwise. Whatever is expected, as there's big list of competencies are there, there may be possibilities you are missing some, and then you are assessing less. So this gap has to be bridged by developing or blueprinting, so that there is a constructive alignment. And secondly, everything can be assessed at every time point. So it may be assessed at different time periods also. So you have to see the best fit, and you have to see that something which you have not taught, not in the curriculum, should not come. So that hidden curriculum possibility should be reduced. Your sampling should be almost dependent on whatever is taught and whatever is expected. So there is a problem with the validity of the test. Means if you are saying this student has passed, what do you mean by pass over here? That means he has achieved those competencies. But if you have not done the adequate sampling, you can't say that it is a valid observation. And therefore, there are two things can happen. One is the content underrepresentation. That means your sampling is not proper. And second thing is that your questions are not well structured. And Dinesh has shown you the example of that one question. Even if we are having a webinar like this, construction of the question can make a difference. So if you are having the very easy question, too difficult question, biased question, and done in that rush process of now I have to do it, my head has said that to draw a paper, then there could be a problem. So the second thing, you can do the pre-validation, give it to your other colleagues, to the head of the department, and have some pre-validation procedure. But for the first, to have that sampling procedure, you have to develop that blueprint. And therefore, that will serve as a reference framework for your question papers. It is you can have it for your practical formative examination as well. So, and you have to follow the university norms and guidelines, but in snapshot, you can see that. What it will contain, it should guide. You have to have the purpose of the test, total time. Think about the number of question format. If it is for that final summative one, the scores, sub-scores, and the number of questions for each topic and subtopic. And just for the pharmacology, we have so many systems are there, and so many things which are important, that mechanism of action, pharmacological effects, adverse drug reaction, and so on. Pharmacokinetics part, applied pharmacokinetics. All these things should be captured somewhere during that period of your 1 year or 11 months. So what MCI has said in the document, that there should be weightage which is given to the topic, and they have shown even the weightage given to the domains of learning. And they have taken the domains as 6 domains in the cognitive area. We know recall, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And the rough percentage given by them is the recall 20%, comprehension 20%, application 20%, analysis they have given more weightage as 24%, and relatively these are the higher domain, they have given the less weightage because it is very difficult to draw questions. And therefore, we have to keep this in mind when we are developing the blueprint. And then you can give the weightages depending on the question, but MCQ should not be more than 20%. So you have to take that into consideration. And for practical OSCE, you can have a separate one. And you have to remember the Miller's pyramid, that for any competency assessment, this forms the basic thing to do. So while going from novice to expert and to the actually towards the proficiency, we need to know these steps. So for some of the things you can have that fact gathering, but it has been said that now you should not have that traditional true and false, and MCI says you should have the case-based scenario. So that it should come with the application. They have now come into the second phase. So you may have some related to the notes, but the number should be less. The shows component is more, and many of our competencies are also SH. Actually, many are on the K and KH, if you consider the theory part of it, but there are others which have been marked as SH, and some of the SH competency are there also in that initial 1 to 64. So you have to take them out, and then they should be achieved by either using the simulators or OSCE. And there are very few places you can go for the direct observation, like workplace-based assessment, because these students for us, they may be preparing that P drug list, EDL, essential drug list and all, criticizing the prescription, that there is a critical appraisal which is related to performance, but they may not be working in reality with the setting of in the board. So what is said about the written test? There are long essay questions, there are short notes. Previously we used to have it, reasoning type of questions and MCQs. Now for the written questions, it has been said that critical and problem should be to the level of problem to the students and require them to apply the knowledge. So no simple recall based of question. The same should be structured, marking distribution should be given, and one should use the action verbs to the higher domain. So previously we used to have the classify certain drugs and then describe the mechanism of action. No, you can't ask the questions now like that. So instead of that, you have to formulate a question, give them the simple case, maybe a person with hypertension, give the values, having some comorbidity. And then you ask what will be your choice of antihypertensive drug or drug. Provide the justification for selection, which goes in the higher level. What adverse drug reactions are expected, what instruction you will give, and you have to give them the marking based on that. The score which should be pre-validated with the other examiners. Similarly, the task-oriented short note should be asked and not write a short note on, which is a very, very common thing which we used to do, write a short note on diethyl carbamazine or any other drug. So you should not do that, but you can have compare and contrast, but give a condition, not compare and contrast hydrochlorothiazide with furosemide. Give it a context. Or state the pharmacological basis of beta blockers in open angle glaucoma. So you have to give some context to that. And 2 questions based on integration in phase 2 has to come somewhere in that internal assessment. Reasoning type of questions, they will improve the analytical ability, and therefore it has to be again as a clinical thing, but the student should be able to explain and give the clinical reasoning, like why adrenaline is preferred in anaphylactic shock. So previously what we used to ask is the rationale for a particular drug or pharmacological basis for a drug. And short note on the applied aspect. So topic like general pharmacology, half-life of the drug, you can ask for the describe the clinical significance of that. As mentioned to you by Dr. Dinesh, the question on the AdCom should appear, but this is a knowledge base. So in practical also you will have AdCom question 1, but which is related to the practical. And it will be related to the theory. So informed consent should be taken from a patient who is willing to participate in clinical trial. And your MCQs, as I said, they should be 20%, but they should be scenario based. Single based response, 4 option, and this is very important, not one liner, which previously we used to have that, and no negative form, avoid that negative forms. And many of our previous questions used to be, all of the following are the adverse drug reaction for this particular drug, except. All those things should be avoided, not and except, they should not be there. Similarly, all of the above and none of the above. And therefore, we have to practice developing the cases and using this question. And I will tell you, it takes really, really tough time. So, and it has to be validated. So start building your MCQ bank. Similarly, the practical assessment, you can have OSCE or OSCE. I'm saying OSCE because whenever there is an encounter with a simulated patient, then you can call it as OSCE. So here you have to demonstrate practical skill, interpret data, make observations, demonstrate spirit of inquiry, explain logically some question. So the minimum questions, minimum stations should be 15 to 20 at least. And the duration can vary from 4 to 15. But I'm telling you from experience, don't have different duration for different stations in an OSCE. Keep it whatever is there, and 4 to 5 minutes are more than enough. Previously, we used to have spotters with just 2 minutes. So you have to structure the question over there, and you have to convert it into OSCE. And this will depend upon the feasibility, the available staff. But I'm telling you here, because of the checklist, even the technician in your department, your resident, they can become your examiners because there is a checklist. So you have to decide the feasibility and what task you are going to do. So there are different sessions are there, performing the procedure, responses or principal writing. There could be link station. That means that related to the procedure, something is asked in the next session. You can have a race station so that they can complete the thing. Then they can have the rationale for the test. You can have the critical session. It is not important and everything should be there. But the critical session is the one where if the student can't perform over there, then naturally that the student is considered as failed. And if your station requires 8 minutes, so the student can work on one station at 4 minutes, move to a dummy station and complete that task. So it depends on what you have asked them. So, and in its identification management. So you have to supplement the question with a graph, diagram, lab report, paper case, table, dosage form, animal video, computer simulation, but try to avoid the questions which are directly in theory. What is the antidote for heparin? No, not that type of question. The checklist you have to develop therefore with a sequence into small steps and then get it validated, and it should be open to suggestions as well. I'm showing you that OSCE has been tried by Dr. Kamal in his lab, and he has kindly provided me the pictures. So it is a doable thing. It can be done in your own laboratory, and see that not at each session the examiner is needed. So here Dr. Kamal is there, it can be seen, but here some other examiner person in the department is there. So you can see directly what the student is doing. So there you need a continuous watch on the student, that examiner should be present over there. We use communication skills as a workshop. Communication skill as one of the stations. We developed that, and we used to give them a scenario again and the prescription written prescription to the student, and we used to ask student, demonstrate how will you explain the prescription to the patient along with information and instruction related to the drug, and they have to explain it in 4 minutes. This is of course by giving them practice and training. And you can see that in our small setup of a small lab, the 3 examiners can easily conduct this type of clinical skill, communication skill viva, where the student you can see with the apron, and the other person who is there is the resident who acts as a patient. So the content wise, the checklist has been done, and that is seen by the faculty member, whereas then we have developed a checklist for even for this patient, simulated patient, and they check whether they are satisfied or not, and that sort of thing can be done. If you want the details about the OSPI and OSCE, you may be knowing it, but this article, though it is 1993 by Ananta Krishna, I still find it very, very good. And the other also is from a Park Journal of Physiology, but still a very good article which gives the overview. Now coming to the portfolio, why you need the portfolio, this assessment? Because the maintenance of the portfolio is based on that assessment. Unless you assess, the portfolio will not be sustained. But if you start assessing the entire content, it is not practical. Remember, you will be having 200, 250 students. So going through that stuff will be very difficult. So at this stage, while doing blueprinting, you decide what you are going to select the specific item from the portfolio. Maybe 1 or 2 reflections which the students are writing, and some more additional things. If possible, you can supplement it with the oral interviews, and that can be done in the summative examination as well. Now, to have the gradation of this reflection, there are various grades available, but if it is a very poorly written description, you can say grade F. If it is described without interpretation, grade E. And as the student improves, or if you see that it can be given with the experiencing with explanation, then it is grade A. So there is a rubric is also used for this, and this is an excellent article. And anyway, these slides will be shared, so you can go and you can look at it. But what is that rubric? The rubric is actually the matrix or the grid, and it is a tool to interpret or grade the students' work across a range of assessment criteria. It is not just the single subjective score which is given. And for example, you can write the performance rating over here: excellent, good, satisfactory, needs improvement. And on one side, you can write the criteria or whatever is there. And here you give the description for that performance. And then circle where that, excuse me?
Ma'am, just how much more time do you require?
2-3 minutes.
Okay, because it's such an interesting presentation. I don't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
if you could
2-3
just-
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the performance description, you can have a similar one for any project or use of creativity behavior. You have to develop that. Similarly, self-directed learning has to be assessed, and it is not just the task, but here you can see how the students are planning, evaluating, maintaining their peer support. This can be taken into consideration. Again, you can ask them to write the reflection and use the reflect rubrics, or you can learn from the logs. There are self-rated skills. There is task completion and communication. Dinesh showed you that there are formative assessment can be done continuously. We are using it. In fact, in our day-to-day lecture practice, we use MCQs. You can use this poll like from Menti.com. You can use crossword. We have a student corner where these different crosswords are put. So that is a way to evaluate. And yesterday, if you have heard, listened to the Dr. Ramnarayan's talk, then he mentioned about one book, 53 interesting things to do in your lecture. And this is all formative assessment. We have used problems of case scenarios, critical appraisal, drug identification during tutorials. And this can become a formative assessment. Or at the end of your class, you can use 1-minute paper test. What you will come to know, you are not assigning marks to everyone. You are not asking them to write their names. But you can find out from that what is interesting, what is relevant, what is conceptually correlated, whether they have could analyze, what is their attitude. And you can ask them to write one muddy point, which is limitation or difficulty. Collect all those papers and then go through it. So before the next class, you will come to know what they have understood and what they have not understood. We have used after e-system, and many of you must be giving some revision class to them. We never corrected their papers, or they were all MCQs and some other question. But after giving that, after 30 minutes of that, we used to discuss with them not just the key, but also other alternatives. And the students used to come out with that. So you can use that. We have used SurveyMonkey as an e-learning module, and we have used the questions of before having the lecture, because some lectures are very simple. So you can see the prior knowledge of that after the lecture, or sometimes giving them case-based scenarios. You can do that. Even for the ADR reporting form, you can continuously give them after the practical and use this online this thing. They can fill the form and send back to you. And you can judge whether the forms are correctly filled or not. That will promote the competency in ADR drug reaction reporting. And all these our papers have been published. You can go through it. So this is my last slide. And I will like to ask all of you that what are the challenges you perceive in this? Can I have that question, madam? Can participant, now we are anyway opening for discussion. So can participant tell me about what challenges they face?
Dr. Dinesh, will you ask them to unmute themselves?
Yeah, they can raise hand and we can unmute them.
Okay. So
I can't see them, so
the participants, can you please unmute and answer? Dr. Dinesh, can you take their names?
Yeah, okay. Let me.
Okay, I can see some names. Dr. Shobha, ma'am, Dr. Shobha Hulgel has answered. Dr. Shobha, why don't you answer? Why don't you speak up? Dr. Narayan.
Dr. Shobha is coming up.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, madam and sir. Good afternoon, madam. I'm Dr. Shobha, Alamdi Medical College. I wanted to ask, madam, there are many like faculty are not available that many to conduct these multiple stations, and also time constraint.
No, madam, I will tell you. If you have 20 stations in 5 minutes time, then it takes only 100 minutes. That is 100 minutes are 60 plus 40. So that, and you don't require faculty at each and every station. Usually we have 3 or 4 examiners. So you require it only at 3 or 4 stations, not at each and every station. And that is why I said that if you go through that literature, you will understand with less faculty members, 2 or 3 faculty members, you can conduct OSCE.
There is another question from Dr. Ranjeev. He's asking, can we use faculty members from other departments? Yes.
Yes.
When we say facilitators need not be mandatorily subject specialist, but they should be having facilitation skills. Then you can use them. Senior resident you can use, postgraduate you can use. You have a lot of workforce in that manner if you look into that.
And the one emphasis is given on integration. So where you are thinking that there are some integrated sessions are there in our curriculum. So there you can get the faculty from there, that particular group as well. Anyone?
Doubt, madam?
Yeah.
One small doubt, not concerned to this. In beginning, you told about rubrics and checklist, madam. Madam, hello.
Yes, yes.
Rubrics and checklist and blueprinting of our curriculum and all. Can it be shared with the students? Will they be knowing about?
Yes, yes, madam. Very much. They should know about the blueprint, how it is, and they should know about the checklist. In fact, you can use the same checklist for assessment, which you are using for giving them the practice. Like the intramuscular injection, whatever was shown by Dr. Dine, I'm sure he must have prepared the OSCE checklist, and he must have trained the student using the same way as he is going to examine. There is a complete transparency over here, because we want, our basic aim is that they should learn the competency and they should be able to perform.
Very right. In fact, we have a full module ready. If you look at the skill lab guidelines and what is needed for each college, you see it is written, some are, you need some mannequins, simulation, but in that, please read the last paragraph. For each of them, you should have learning objectives, the methods and assessment. Okay, that includes checklist, global ratings and all. I already offered that anybody who wants to share our module on the intramuscular gluteal region, we are ready to collaborate. You can send me an email. We can share full module with you, and it's a ready-made module with everything, and you have to implement and just intimate us.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Answer. Okay, thank you.
So, I will just show you these challenges. We can take up some questions.
There's a hand from Dr. Preeti Garg. Dr. Preeti, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Sir, the main challenge, I think the faculty needs to be motivated and we need to orient ourselves. Like these webinars are very good at making us orient towards this new CBME curriculum, because everything is all to make the student for competency-based outcome.
Dr. Preeti, can you identify yourself, from which college you are?
Sir, I'm Dr. Preeti. I'm working in Adesh Medical College, Shahabad, sir.
And Dinesh, she has answered your first question. She has written it in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We all need to be aware of work together, work in teams, get resources together.
Yes, sir. And all these webinars are helping us a lot to orient ourselves towards this new methods.
I think that is something.
Thank you, sir, for this.
Yes. Out of this. Yes, yes.
Thank you. This challenge is, I always feel we are breaking down the competencies into SLOs. That is for our understanding and for teaching. But you remember that what we are, you have to assess is competency and not just few SLOs. That we were doing with the earlier curriculum also, but doing just assessing few SLOs and saying that competency is achieved, it will not be correct. So that one has to remember.
Vandana, there are two more hands, Dr. Chitra followed by Dr. Lopamudra. Dr. Chitra, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm Dr. Chitra Khandalkar from Krishna Institute, Karad. Rege madam, my question is whether OSCE, inclusion of OSCE is necessary, it is mandatory, or any other method can be used?
Which other method, madam?
Yes, yes, madam.
Which other method you would like to use for I didn't miss for the skills, because this
Like
is
we used to give table work exercises. Now I am having OSPI in my first term ending. Already we are introduced, but it is not that kind actually. What you are talking, it is just type of means same questions which we were asking as table work exercise, like
so
the
that
prescription.
format you have to change, and if you are
Yes.
going to use the table work, you have to see to it that all the competencies are achieved over here. But my fear is that when you have the table work and if you are spending more time with that, the competencies will not get assessed from the multiple areas if you don't go for the OSCE. That there you can at least have chance of getting at least 20 get assessed in 5 minutes or something. But otherwise in the table work, it depends upon the what question. Maybe that table work you can convert it into a
Yes.
OSCE.
Yeah.
OSPI.
Yeah, maybe that is what you are actually doing, the auspice station.
Yes.
But it may be with few these things. Okay.
We have included actually the performance station also, and as well as the communication skill. It's already running for 4-5 years. That is already there in our OSPI actually.
That is what I'm saying. So you are naming it different.
Yeah.
So the advantage of OSPI is more number of students in less
Yes.
time you can examine. That is
Yes.
ideal for your stand-ups and your university examination, and multiple areas you can assess.
Areas can.
Yes, sir.
So many advantages. Dr. Padyal, can we take some more questions? There are a couple more.
Just I will finish this slide. That is what they are asking. That I feel the challenges is capturing those informal opportunities, because all these years we have not done. Number of students, as I said, the 200 to 250. And this mastery level for competency, on one hand, remember we are saying the competency should be achieved. At the same time, our mastery level, as per MCI, is 50%. So we have to develop our checklist and decide when we will say that, okay, there's competencies achieved, or at least that 50% is achieved so that we can pass them. That is a task we have to do. Of course, faculty training, people are saying like planning, implementation, and there we have written ourselves reflection. So to judge the reflection without writing it, that means we have to also have some practice and see what are the nuances in reflection writing and its assessment. Feedback is another very important thing which Dinesh has mentioned. And one more thing, that when you are giving this feedback and having this formative, sometimes what happens, that the good performers in that early encounters, every time he gets good marks and they lose the drive. And sometimes the underachievers, they start avoiding the feedback. Otherwise, the underachievers, before their summative exam, they start working hard. And they, as Dinesh had shown with the T-bag model, that they do something in that 1 month period and then they become. We don't want that. We have to be balanced in giving our feedback and see to it that everyone's need is catered to. So that is a big challenge with limited faculty and large number of students. That's what I feel. Dr. Vandana, we can take up more questions, or
Okay,
if they
ma'am.
have questions related to this.
Vandana,
This is my last.
I unmuted Dr. Lopamudra, followed by Arpana Priya.
Good afternoon, madam and sir. It's a very nice session. I'm Dr. Lopamudra Chaudhary. I'm HOD Pharmacology, Murshidabad Medical College, West Bengal. The problem is that we are number of faculties to student ratio, it's very less. We are only 4 faculties on the whole, with 3 professors, including assistant and professor, and we have to handle 125 students just after a few months. So it is really a challenge for us. I just wanted to know that because this curriculum committee will form this mainly this competency based objectives and all. So will it vary from institute to institute? Is there any problem regarding that?
The curriculum committee doesn't form the objective. Objective has to be formed by your own department, madam.
Integration, alignment, they
will facilitate the integration and all those things. But you have to sit with your
own faculty members, followed by
along with the other departments, and that now if there is a vertical integration with medicine and other
yes, we
people,
have to.
that you have to do.
Yeah, I think isn't it standardized for all institutes, or it can vary from institute to institute?
It can vary.
It can vary according to necessity.
That's the whole idea, that there is a flexibility. Infrastructure changes. You have 4 faculty. Some pharmacology department has 15 faculty.
Okay. Yes.
Trained.
So we can arrange accordingly.
Yes. How best you can work in that, whatever the infrastructure you have to do it, and you have to innovate and find out the methods. How, with 4 faculty, 125 students, how you are going to do that.
Yes,
Everything
yes.
cannot be possible for you, but slowly, once you learn something, then slowly you can go on adding also.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, madam, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Who's the next?
I just wanted to add over here that if we, on the different practicals, if we can devise the kind of the modules that a single faculty can do it or assess it, it is beneficial. As I have tried at my institution, that the modules have been developed with the practical pharmacology in a way that lesser faculties are involved and more students can be analyzed or assessed.
Yeah. So that is an innovation we have done at your institution. So like that, sir, others
some practicals also.
You have to share yours with them.
In coming days, we share some of the modules, and these are very much beneficial. And it is the answer of Madam Lopamudra's questions also, because it is a very common question asked that faculty is less, and there is recently some changes also probably with the NLP. Some faculty increase may be there. We can see.
That proposal is also under active consideration now.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes.
Dr. Kamal, I think this is the time now. This is our last webinar. Maybe we can now develop a website where officially we can put a repository of all these methods.
Yes.
So people acknowledge and also use it. So everyone doesn't reinvent the wheel again and again. And everyone gets benefited for this effort which we have done together. As all of people, I see some of them are very regular. They are present in all the 7 webinars.
So in today's presentation, more than 200 have participated, and I can see very well because I know them personally. More than 80 head of the department has attended today's presentation. It is really a very good.
In assessment, we have a lot of change in the mindset also, which will go into.
Yes.
Do we take any more questions, Doctor? There's one on which is pertinent, and I think each college has to devise its own pattern for assessment, or will there be some common guidelines so as to maintain uniformity all over?
There are common guidelines by the regulator followed by university, and all affiliated college to a single university should follow that one only. Colleges will not devise that. It is at the level of university, including the remedial measures for the failed and supplementary students. So it will not be different than the government colleges. They take 2 months to improve, and another some private college, they improve in 2 days. So that should be same for all colleges.
Okay, there's one more question for you, Dr. Rege. Can you explain the assessment of reflections of students with one example?
One example means?
Well, that's what
it is it is a narrative which is written by the student. You have to see whether it is just a description of what they have. Suppose they have written a reflection regarding you have a communication skill or practical, and they have written the reflection that they have just described what happened. So that too with lot of grammatical mistakes and lot of very haphazardly, not in a logical sequence, then the grade will be less. If they have given the description, okay, it is one better. But if they have really thought over it, what they have learned through it, where are the deficiencies, what they would like to do, where they feel they stand, or what they could have done, then it is at a higher level. So depending on that, you can grade that from the lowest to the highest. And that is that grade I have shown you, but you can devise your own grade looking at that. So if you go through that article which I have given you, it is for the students only. So they have given very clearly, they have given a description, and they have shown that how that description can be graded using their rubric. You need not use it. You can devise your own thing, get validated amongst yourself, take help of your medical education unit, and you can use for your own practical. Use a simpler one so that you will, which will be easier for you to go through. And later on, once you get hang of it, then in future years you can modify it.
Dr. Dinesh, you wanted to say, add some?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a challenge, assessment of reflections. First, we need to train faculty. And right now, it is only in the advanced course, in the medical education FAMER fellowship, where people write reflection and assess reflection. So a lot of people are not trained in that. If we start assessing reflection without getting trained, it is going to be disastrous. So maybe at our level, MEU people should have a half-day workshops on reflection. The students have been trained. 2019 batch is trained how to write reflections. Now the other component, how to assess reflections, the teachers need to be trained. For example, I take example of these 7 webinars. I see some more people have been there for all the 7 webinars. If I ask any one of them to reflect on their experience, somebody might say, okay, the first seminar started this, it took 1.5 years, 2 hours. Second seminar was this, it started this, it explained this, this may be a factual facts. Versus somebody who says, okay, when I thought of attending this seminar, I thought maybe another boring session of 1 hour, half an hour, people will put PPTs and go away. But when I realized a lot of wonderful things I got, that is reflections. We want them in their own words. What is the impact? And then the person says, I think out of this, I can take this forward in my department. What next? So if we train the teachers first in assessing the reflections, then it is, because in new curriculum, lot of words are going to get more importance than the marks. So we need to see how to assess these writings by the students.
Why, and most important thing is why they should do that, why our students should do that. Because as a physician, we have to see what has been done, and then we have to think that how best we can get out of that, what can we learn and what can we put into action. So reflection without putting into action has no meaning. So you can see with the portfolio, where they write again and again, maybe 2 or 3 reflection also. You can see whether there is a change. And it has been said that it will be a continuous thing. Right from that, as Dinesh said, the students have been trained in the 2019 batch. When they will come to us, they will write again. They will write again when they are going into that 3rd MBBS period. So there could be a change right from the first year when they are writing their first reflection to the last year.
One more question, I think, and then we can close, Dr. Dinesh. Can the portfolio be part of the logbook?
Portfolio be part of the logbook?
No. So this requires clarity between.
It has been said that you can put it as an appendix to the logbook because they have not. It is in the preliminary stage for having a portfolio. So it has been. We have been given liberty that it can be a paper portfolio, it can be e-portfolio, but if you want to put, you can put it as an appendix to that logbook, but otherwise you have to have the separate document or it can be e-portfolio also.
So portfolio is something where they are going to document all their activities or contribution. As ma'am already told, it need not be undergo the evaluation assessment. So it is something, the collection of what they have done, and it is with them. Right now, for example, for some specific activity, they can discuss with some facilitator, but logbook is something which should not be filled with everything. Remember that. Don't make it that you put all the competencies there. You use your usual practical records, which you are using only. Logbook should have only limited items, which are going to be assessed, which you are going to take forward. You need to see everything in the logbook you are going to assess, and ultimately you are going to sign it, and the principal is going to sign it. Don't make it another practical notebook.
Yes.
There is one hand for a long time, Dr. Arpana Priya. Last question.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, madam. I wanted to ask that as Dinesh sir in the beginning had told that some students which are not dark, means he had shown 3 classes, and out of them one was very light. That means those students need more teaching and learning experience. So is this 11 months very short time to teach those students? How can we cover all those students who are very poor in this short period of time? Already the time has been reduced by MCI to 11 months, and
Well,
I think this is very short period for, as it is a very vast subject. It is a very short period, and about that, all these students like who are very poor in studies, we need to teach them more, take more classes, and do more assessments for them.
okay.
So is it in this time, will it be possible, sir?
Because what we are talking about, the new curriculum, is formative assessment, continuous assessment throughout. We are not talking at intervals of 3 months or 6 months. We are talking it happening every week, every something like that. Okay, that's why in the timetable, there are slots for formative assessment. So you should be able to identify this color. We are even doing with the older batch, we are doing at the 3 to 4 months, we are able to see the color. By 4 to 5 months, we are able to see the taste and aroma. So you can take sufficient. At 6 months, a letter is sent to the parents if no improvement is there. Parental involvement is there. So all has to be done. And at 6 months, the parents are told your ward is likely to be detained in university examination if it doesn't improve. Okay, so remember all the feedback measures you take.
Yeah, and one more thing that madam, you have to remember the onus of learning in CBME is on the learner. Teachers are facilitators. So your, as Dinesh rightly said, your job is to give feedback. Your job is to tell him where he is going wrong and maybe giving him the goal. If you look at our prescriptions also, they have said 5 prescriptions. Maybe to have that 5 certified prescription, you may have to give them more prescription that at the different intervals, so that they can 5 can be certified. But initially they may not be doing well. So they have said it is a repeat one. If they're not doing well, then there is a remedial action. So that has been mentioned in the logbook as well, and they know that the logbook is the one which makes their eligibility. So the student will also learn, and they have already been having 1.5 year in first MBBS where all these things were there.
Dr. Arpana-Priya, it's very important you ask that. Remember, in the new curriculum now it is written, when you show this performance, this color to the students, they have to sign on that day that you have shown them. So if you have shown them thrice and they have signed in 3 or 4 months, they are very well aware of. Otherwise, what they do is near the exam, they say, you never told us about the color. And just before the university examination, you are telling you can't appear in the examination. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think we close for questions
Yes,
now.
sir. I just wanted to tell them one thing, that I have not covered the MD pharmacology thing, because that is same as, except for the formative part, Dr. Dinesh has already said, but it is same as our current examination pattern, but that the same regulation as 2000 is applicable for the assessment.
So thank you so much. Both our learned speakers have given us a very lucid, elaborate and detailed overview of assessment under the new CBME curriculum. Differences in CBME and the traditional method of learning and teaching were covered. Focus on formative assessment. Assessment for learning, which has to be continuous, was emphasized. How it can be done, how it needs to be done, what are the resources required, were all covered. A very important fact that Dr. Rege brought out was that while the learning objectives have been divided, they've been really broken into minuscule things, so that the teacher is very well aware of what needs to be transmitted to the students. We must remember that what we have to assess are the competencies and not just the specific learning objective. So, I just want to, before we end, I just want to say a few words. We all know that assessment is a very essential part of education. It drives learning. But as facilitators, as teachers, we must remember that examination results are only an estimate of the truth about someone's ability. Assessment is an approximation of truth. It is a probability. how likely it is that our estimate of ability, that is the score we give in an examination, falls within a specified range of students' true ability. It is paramount we understand this as a facilitator. Meaningful assessment should be high on signal and low on noise. And this would require more resources, more people, time, awareness, and teachers' ability. You know, the role of a teacher, while in CBME, the onus is on the student to learn, but how it has to be done and the assessment, there the onus comes on the faculty. So there's a lot of faculty introspection, a lot of faculty reflection, and a lot of faculty training required for this. Careful, repeated observation under standard conditions with consistent criteria is intended to maximize the signal to noise ratio or reliability. Random, inconsistent feedback will simply not be helpful to the student's learning. While assessment is important, it's important not only for the students, but very important for the faculty, the facilitators, whether or not what they are doing is appropriate or they need to change. And one very, very important thing is that as we all work hard, we've all been working to make modify the curriculum, make the exercises, make the schedules, practical exercises, and now we are working on the assessment of the students. We must not remember as facilitators, we must not lose the forest for the trees as far as students' learning and assessment goes. Now I'm going to leave you with those few last words to think about what is meant, you know. Do not lose the forest for the trees in your endeavor, in your enthusiasm of trying to implement CBME. And with this, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers, Professor Nirmala Rege, Professor Badyal, the audience, a very enthusiastic audience for participating, and the organizers, very, very important, our national convener, Dr. Dinesh Badyal, and the national coordinator, Dr. C. Kamal, for having taken the initiative to put this all together for all the pharmacology faculty to visit, learn, interact, and I think the learning is going to go on. So thank you very much, and wishing all the fraternity, pharmacology fraternity, good wishes, lots of hard work as we prepare ourselves for a new way of teaching and assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vandana.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.